Welcome, Heels.
Thanks very much, Crash.
And thank you very much for bringing these two old friends of yours, two of your diaries. This is a story of never-ending fascination for me. They're part of a long sequence of these private diaries that you kept right from when you were first in the Australian team. How much did they help you?
And before I was in the Australian team too, I reckon, and you know better than any, having written my first book, that you had 12 or 13 to deal with, didn't you? Every year I would have a diary, which was a performance diary, not a, oh, we went to Luna Park today. It was, what was I going to try to achieve today? How did I go? And what was I going to do again tomorrow? So I'd do that before I'd go to bed every night. And it was a performance diary that kept me on track and tried to get real consistent performance out of myself. So I learnt it at Teachers College. I was a physical education teacher, and we studied athletes like Daley Thompson and great Olympians that all kept performance diaries. So that's where it started.
And the real Ian Healy story for mine is locked in there. And I was always interested how you went really hard on yourself in the diaries. Now, I've taken out a couple of extracts. I've had a peep. One of them says, I must accept people are split in their opinions of me and get on with life. A keeper's lot is in amongst it, and I can't back away from it. I must lighten up. Another one says, I'm so depressed about my batting and general persona. Negative, internal and quiet. I've never had a history of being scared or being dropped. And you really drill down yourself, don't you?
Yes, and that's why they're sort of private. You've got your hands on them. Because it is hard. And it's really inner thoughts and inner feelings of when you're not feeling that confident, and everyone goes through that. There's a form slump. I don't really know what comes first. Is it your confidence level starts to sap, then your form goes down, and what has to get picked up first before it all comes back together again? And the time to minimise the down. You know, you've got to try to be aware of when it's starting to sap and go down and stop it and then bring it back up. And that's consistency, and then put a really good day on top of a consistent line of form. And that was a time against the West Indies where I was really questioning whether about the Lara stumping, that people were split on me or the missed stumping of Lara. And there was some good pressure floating around. I ended up having to write a list of pros and cons about playing. I'd only been playing for 4 years or 5 years or something, and the pros were about a page of foolscap. The cons were 2. And
really?
I said, right, you know, get going and get into this.
You missed that stumping against Lara at the Gabba. Your gloves hit the stumps. The ball didn't. And it created a frostiness between you and Lara that drifted on for years, didn't it?
Yeah, and it's probably still there, I reckon. And it's a frostiness, but I think we're okay. It was a funny old thing that the incident happened. That my gloves hit the stumps, the ball didn't. I said to the umpire, my gloves hit the stumps, and to Mark Taylor. Terry Prue, the umpire, comes in and says, no, I saw the ball hit the stumps. Brian is lying face down back at me going, come on, Heels, what's going on? And so, what can I do? The umpire said it's out. Anyway, we watched it that night in the dressing room at the Gabba on the news, you know, and we sort of went, I went sorry, and he said, with Brian, we watched it on the news, and then over time since our careers, we've talked no problems, and you know, so it's there, but it's not perfect.
It was a tough season for you, that one, wasn't it, in 1992 against the West Indies, and because you felt people had stopped trusting you, didn't you? And there was a decision later in that series where a very obvious bowled, and you wrote in your diaries, I looked up and I thought, if this is given not out, I'm retiring.
I could imagine myself walking off the field, leaving our huddle in the middle of the field and walking off, throwing my gloves down, and I'm out because, Carl Hooper got bowled. I was up to the stumps and it clipped the off stump and made a beautiful noise. One bails off, that's it. Carl Hooper's standing there going, what happened there? And the umpire's starting to talk to each other, like, hang on, he's been bowled. And so I'm standing in the huddle, and now what are we waiting for? Where they can't use the vision of the screen, and they can't go to the third, there's no third umpire. These two umpires, if they decide that this is not out, I'm out, I'm retiring. That's how feisty I was getting. It was.
You laugh now, but you were serious. Like, you were filthy, weren't you? You thought.
Oh, very much so. So there was that one. But the day after the Lara stumping in Brisbane, I caught Keith Arthurton, a nice sort of lurching catch forward. It would have carried by about that far, and it got given not out. So I went, holy hell, no one likes me here and no one's trusting me. And the season was just wearing on. Of course, you've got to bat against these West Indian great quicks. It's never easy, so it's certainly not easy when you're not feeling great, and the season went forever.
Let's go back right to the start of your Test career. I mean, you were pitchforked in after 6 first-class games for Queensland. Some people said to the toughest ever debut for an Australian player, not just against Pakistan, but in Karachi, keeping for 2 days. It just must have been brutal.
I'd never kept for any longer than 1 day and 1 session in 4-day Sheffield Shield matches. You can't bat for too long as the first innings batting team. So here we were, well into the 3rd day, still keeping. And the atmosphere in the team wasn't great then. The morale when you travelled the subcontinent was not great. And, the comments were going out, we'll never get him out. And Javed Miandad would never get LBW. He made 207. My memory tells me that they only made 469, I think, in a lot of time. It was hard batting. They won the toss and batted. And then we were outright. We were out by lunchtime on day 5 twice. So whilst it was a tough initiation, if you haven't felt the toughness before, you'd have a better attitude in there. I didn't find it as tough as the other boys in the team. It was pretty boring, that trip to Pakistan where you don't go out in public, there's no booze to unwind with, that sort of stuff. And you go to the same restaurant every night and listen to the same stories. So 7 weeks was long.
Being a youngster, you would have felt a little bit insecure, and you've always been candid about that, like even looking at a guy like David Byrne and second-guessing his body language. Is that right?
Well, he's just cement, David Byrne. He's just like the same all the time, which is great because as a batsman, the opposition can't read you, whether you are feeling confident or insecure yourself. So Byrne was so consistent, but rock hard. So he used to field right there. My first test, I've got to keep to a lot of spin first test, and Byrne was there, and I'm thinking, he hates me, this bloke. Like, he does not like me at all. And I took a great catch to start my career, a beauty, and diving to get Ramesh Raja off Bruce Reid. And the boys were saying, oh, well, this fella's a beauty. We've got a ripper now. I was the 6th wicketkeeper in 4 years that had been tried since Rod Marsh, and or 5 years. And I think I dropped Salim Malik at the end of that day, and they weren't so confident with me after that.
So you're saying Byrne would look at you as if to say, you sense he doesn't rate me at all?
Yeah, he's really sussing me out. He's like that under the helmet. And I'm thinking, oh, give me something, please, mate, a little congratulations or something. Nothing, but I worked out, a year or 2 later, I'll get into this tour and the next summer. That's Byrne.
Your initial selection was quite bizarre because it was the day before April Fool's Day in 1988, and you took a while to be convinced that it wasn't a G-up, didn't you?
Yeah, definitely. Because I'd just come back from the Sheffield Shield final in Perth, and the Brisbane cricket coordinator / Queensland cricket secretary rang me and said, have you heard the good news? Oh, no, what? He said, oh, you're in. And I said, I know. I was really pleased that Queensland had stuck with me to go to Kingaroy, which was our country tour. Next weekend, we're going up there for a town celebration, and we're going to be part of it to promote something up in the Peanut Festival or something like that. He says, oh, no, I'm going to Kingaroy. I'm really happy. No, you're going to Pakistan. Before. So he had to read the team to me. I said, who's the other wicketkeeper? And they said, no, you're it. What? And so then I get off the phone there and I ring my best mate, and I said, Bertie, I'm going to Pakistan with the Australian team. And he said, bullshit. And I said, no, I think it's true. Anyway, then I rang my dad. And, Dad, I'm in the Australian cricket team. He said, bullshit. And so that day, we were going camping over at Moreton Island with Craig and Jodie McDermott. And I get off the barge, Billy, I'm coming to Pakistan with you. You know what he said? Bullshit.
And that tour was so dramatic because of the massive fallout with the umpires. And Colleague and Alan Border, you had a team vote whether you should stay on tour and tolerate the umpires or go. And the vote actually went to go home.
And my hand was in it. There's no way I should have put my hand up. And from memory, there's only 2 that voted no. And it was Mike Valletta and Tony Doddermaid, 2 young fellas who are looking to forge Australian careers. And I should have been with them, definitely, but, because we don't care if the umpiring's bad or not. We're learning cricket here and we're in a new experience. But don't worry, I had my hand up. I thought if we can go home from this tour, which is really hard at the moment, I'm not going very good. I'll get home, I'll play an Australian summer. I might get it right over there, but if not, at least I've had an Australian summer and I'll be finished then. So, yeah, it was very strong. And Colleague was a former Test umpire. It's probably a wonderful archive story, this, that we were extremely distressed about the umpiring. There was just abominable. So much so that Peter Taylor stayed not out in the first innings of Karachi. AB said to him, right, you keep the pads on your opening in the second innings. That's how weird it was all going. And then PT got fired. And PT, in his academic way, he had to walk past the umpire, had just given him out to go to the pavilion. He said, now the other umpire must have been the bad cop. And PT said, now you don't have to start doing this as well. And as he walked past him, oh, good sledge, PT. But yeah, it was horrible and really bad umpiring. And 60 Minutes came to the tour. And they sort of burst into our breakfast room and put the pressure on Bobby Simpson. How dare you threaten to come home, all this sort of stuff. And really the public turned against us, and it was tough times for the team.
You mentioned Bob Simpson. He at times was very firm on you, wasn't he? But you've always rated him, haven't you, as one of Australia's greatest cricket coaches. How hard was he on you?
Oh, well, I don't really feel that he was hard on me, and excessively hard on me. He was as hard as you should be on a Test cricketer for their country, and then leave it up to that Test cricket to get himself a long career. Cricket coaching's so infant. It only started in '86. He was the first coach that Australia had. He went over to a New Zealand tour before my time and just checked whether it needed a coach. And sure enough, he found a real hierarchy in the team and a cynicism that was not allowing young fellas like McDermott to grow and get good at the game. So he said, yeah, I can be a coach. I think it needs a coach. And so it's so young, but he was like a former player, a senior player in the team, moulding us. And sort of there's no room for sympathy and what have you. Get on with it, do your job. Otherwise, there's a lineup of people that want your job. Do you want it or not?
You once revealed that you were so scared of his ability to find out everything, you just fessed up, including one night jumping off was it a table in a Perth disco?
No, it wasn't. It was a rap dance move. It was a swallow dive, you bang, come down on my knee. Now, that weekend we're playing Pakistan in Adelaide. It hadn't come good, and so I was caught out a little bit. I was going for a run out, and I had to get up to the stumps for a side-on run out, and I was a little bit sluggish, and I was exposed. And then it rained, and we had a rain delay, so I'm in the dressing room now getting some Panadeine, making sure this knee gets going. And Bob Simpson comes up to me and said, no, everything all right? And I said, no, I've got a bit of a sore knee. How'd you do that? Oh, rap dancing in Perth. And he said, it's hard to feel sympathy for you, isn't it? So I said, yeah, sure, mate, get those tablets in. And that rain delay allowed the pain to be kicked, and I came good.
Isn't that interesting, though, that you made the decision, I'll fess up and cop it, rather than tell him a lie and have him find out?
Yeah. I was never scared of being dropped, and that's how you want all your team. The more team members that you have in any team, whether it be a business group, whether it be a sporting team, whether it be politicians, the more you get there that don't care if they get dropped, the better you're going to play, the better your morale's going to be, and you go for it.
And Hills, let's talk about your tools of trade. Hold your hands up and let's see how they look now. I mean, there's some twisted old digits there, isn't there?
This one was the real twisted one. It used to go that way and wouldn't bend. Now, even though it's a bit squeaky, it's got an artificial joint in there. So at least it's straight. It looks much better. But yeah, you see index fingers of wicket keepers are pretty average, and little fingers, so index fingers you get taken on the way in. You catch the ball, but the index fingers get taken on the way in with it. So towards the end of my career, I was taping those two fingers in my gloves together so that the index finger would never get in front of my middle finger, and then little fingers get slammed on the ground, in between the ball and the ground. So.
How many fingers would you have had that were broken?
Well, you never get them x-rayed, so I don't know, but I had a lot of sore fingers. But mainly, the last one I broke was my thumb up here. I got one on the end of the thumb and it broke up here. That was in 1994. So the first 5 years of my career, probably when I wasn't totally relaxed and wasn't, I was more tense than I should have been. That's when I did them all. So the last 5 years, 6 years were fine. So but I probably would have broken most of them a couple of times.
You were one of the men who turned Australian cricket around. You played 6 Ashes series and won the lot. But the West Indies were sort of your barometer team, weren't they? You were very high and very low against them, weren't you? Ebb and flow.
Yeah, never too high. Let's not gloss over the Ashes, please, Crash. I'm very proud of what we achieved against England, 6 series in a row. It was really special for us. We started something in 1989 and never let it go in our time. So I'm really proud of what my teams were able to achieve there. But yeah, the West Indies was the real challenge. They'd never been beaten home or away for 15 years. So we thought we might take them on in 1991. We're going to dish some short stuff out to their bowlers. When they come into bat, the likes of Malcolm Marshall, this young Curtly Ambrose, Patrick Patterson, we have to sort of dish it out to them. And it was a really aggressive series, and Craig McDermott got filled in playing for Jamaica, against Jamaica, the match before the first test. Courtney Walsh fired up and got one through his helmet and split him. That's what we had to try to do. Desmond Haynes, Gordon Greenwich, Viv Richards, all wonderful, Malcolm Marshall, all wonderful heroes of ours. But it was time we had to sort of disrespect them to compete.
Finally, the Great Wall fell. 1995, West Indies, 15 years undefeated reign come to an end. The joy for someone like yourself who had suffered earlier must have just been boundless, was it?
I wouldn't say boundless because their team had to change before we could beat it. You know, our great chance was 1993 in Australia. If we had had that Adelaide win, they still had a lot more legends than they had in 1995. Richie Richardson was now the captain, and you know, to be honest, we probably were ready to beat that team that the West Indies put out. They didn't like our team. They thought they still had us covered. But it didn't turn out that way. Brilliant innings by the War Boys in the Jamaican Test to get us over the line there. So, you know, it would have been nice to break the cycle, but I think the cycle went its natural length. So a sporting cycle is probably 15 to 20 years if you're really successful. And if you're an opponent or a challenger, you want to beat it before that natural end to the cycle so that you break into their cycle and start your own. Well, we couldn't do that. You know, they beat us in 93.
Let's talk about sledging. People always saw you, you know, with that cheeky smile and assumed you're a big sledger. Were you?
No, I don't think so. I was a big talker. My sort of job as the wicketkeeper is to have a presence behind the stumps, not an offensive one to your opponent, but certainly once you get your job down, Pat, once you're feeling good in any given session, which Rod Marsh taught me, you know, get your job down, Pat, 15 or 20 minutes after lunch or after tea or the start of the day's play. Then you've got to have your energy focused on how we're going in the field here, you know, and make sure there is a bubble out there and there's a real spirit. And then every now and then, if you are that type of presence, there could be a personal blow up somewhere. And you're certainly willing to be involved in that sort of fight if it crops up. So, no, my observations that the higher you went up, the less chat there was. It was much, much less than club cricket, where you really have a go at each other for the sake of having fun, you know, but a lot of countries don't do that, and that's where Australia gets in a little bit of trouble. It's in our blood to take the mickey and have a bit of a test them out here and there. But if you're doing that to Brian Lara or a Sachin Tendulkar or a Stephen Waugh in a Shield game, they look at you, they turn around and look at you and go, right, I think I might bat for 2 days now. It's very, very dangerous, so therefore there's not much.
You played with some great fast bowling lionhearts like McGrath, both in himself and also Merv Hughes. None of them were big on resting. Sports science has now changed fast bowling, hasn't it? It's interceded. Bowlers, you know, there's workload management. What do you make of it? Is sports science and cricket good bedfellows?
They should be good bedfellows. I think they haven't got it right yet. The game's taken it on as its responsibility now to get a player a long career. You know, it used to be the player's responsibility to get his own long career going, you know. But to me, we're not paying enough attention to the schedule. You know, the Australian cricket team's got a heavy schedule and they're away a lot. I will never comment too much on appropriate management of workloads there for fast bowlers, especially young ones. But a state cricketer who are getting the same sort of policies dished out to them. They only play the Matador Barbecues Cup. They play 10 Shield games and maybe the final and the Big Bash in between. Now, that's a schedule that's very manageable to get through. The player used to have to say, well, that's my schedule, I've got to get through that. And then if I play really well here, here and here, I might play for Australia or I might get on that tour. But at the moment, the game has taken it over to stretch their careers out. Mitchell Starc, for example, has played 28 games, 28 tests in 5 years. So he's going to play for 12 years, which is a wonderful career, but have 60 tests if they keep going the way they're going. I want him to become an Australian hero. And to do that, you need to play 100 plus tests, I would have thought, and he's very capable of doing that. So let's hope he's past the 25-year-old mark where their body's hardened up and everything, we're told, and he doesn't have to be managed as much anymore.
You sound frustrated. I mean, I sense that this comments are coming from deep within you. It's something that's progressively frustrated you.
Oh, it does frustrate me a little bit because the players aren't having enough say in their own career, in their own body. I want them playing and I want them winning series and creating a public image. I think we're not allowing the public to get to know our great players well enough, and the player can't say anything against it. They've just got to take the medical advice. Now, it might be professional advice, but is it cricket enough? I'm not sure. They're valuing physical way higher than it should be. To me, physical is the number 4 priority in cricket. You know, you don't have to be that fit to play cricket, and I don't think they know that. Psychological is number 1. Confidence to know that you're about to deliver a ball and it'll land right where I need it to. Then technical, making sure our techniques are right and the ability to sustain pressure and absorb pressure. That's number 2 by a mile. Then there's camaraderie, I reckon, the social side of a team. That's number 3. And then physical's number 4. Most of these great athletes that get picked for Australia are fit enough to play the game. We've just got to be mindful that that's where physical should sit, psychological and confidence and relaxation much more important.
Hills, you were very close to one of the really big dramas in Australian cricket in the 1990s, and that was Mark Taylor's form slump. He was captain of Australia. He was out of form for about 18 months. He was actually dropped from the one-day team in South Africa. You took over the captaincy, and that must have been a gruelling experience because I could sense the morale of the entire team, even when you were winning, was actually quite low.
Yeah, it probably was. You'd probably be a good judge being just outside our team. Being inside the team, we were so fortunate that we had such a good team and in form elsewhere that we could still get plenty of jobs done. And Tubby's persona through that period was unbelievable. I wouldn't have been able to get through the barrage of media that he was always copying, and we had to make sure the example from the top of the team was still a good enough one for a young Ricky Ponting, young Greg Blewett and young Matty Elliott, that it was still not a terrible team to be part of, you know, where everyone was tiptoeing around the captain. So, Tubby was excellent that he still mixed his interaction with the team was still better than it should have been.
The boys don't normally laugh at London tabloid pranks, but I remember the photo with the bus when one of them brought out a bat that wide for Tubby and gave it to him. Remember that?
Yes.
The blokes thought that was good form, didn't they?
I think it was Gloucester. We were getting off for a county match and the Mirror, I think it was, had a big bat and, Tubby spat it real bad. And he threw the bat down. The Mirror wanted him to take hold of it and then snap a photo of this is what the Australian captain's going to try this week, you know. and then our team manager rebuked the media and said, this is not respectful enough, blah, blah, blah. We got in the dressing room and Paul Rifle thought that might work, that bat.
Not wide enough, or?
He said, no, give it a go.
And what about Shane Warne? I mean, you had the best view in the house for a decade. What was it? Tell us something. Take us into the world of keeping the Warnie, like something that we don't know about his genius.
Well, there's nothing much you don't know about Warnie, but I guess when you just mentioned Warnie then, I felt energy, you know. So it's a feeling that no one will be able to ever get. You can feel his presence from the other end of the pitch. He was that confident with what was coming out of his hand in the most helpless craft in cricket, you know, to try to bowl a ball that spins like that, and the more it spins, it'll then swing and draw the batsman to it, and then he spins it away from the batsman who's been drawn in. So that's a really difficult thing to do over 20 metres. And so he was that confident with his craft that he could then sort of have energy for everyone else now. I can put some time into this batsman, and then, talk to Heels or Gilly, and then make sure my field's right. The captain engagement was great. Why don't we have this, this and this? And he knew that if he was going to really try a lot of different deliveries at any given stage, he might need some protection in the field. So when he's attacking with the ball, he's defending in areas of the field. And then when he's having to bowl at day one in Perth, for example, where it's not doing much for him, and he can do such a valuable job there, into the wind, where the quicks don't want to bowl, it's not spinning much, he can be very accurate and keep it tight on day one. He would maybe defend with the ball, and that's when he was really confident he was going to be accurate. He could attack with his field. So he was just a versatile player that won us so many games. I wouldn't be here, I don't reckon, without Warnie in my team.
You had an interesting experience. You kept to him and then you faced him in a match, and you came off and you gave a press conference where you said, yeah, it was different. I sort of struggled. I've got fresh ideas now because my perspective's changed.
Your memory's too good, Crash. Yeah, he was hard, and he always wants to engage with you. You talk, and I'm going to try. Tells you what he's going to do, and you think, no, he won't do that. He's done it. He has delivered what he said he was going to, and sort of you're always on edge as a batsman. I went quite well against him. I made 40, and I padded him away, and then I drove him, put him into gaps, and didn't take him. I was desperate not to try to get out to him, and he was sort of always goading me. You play bigger shots than this. What's this? And then finally he gave me this juicy ball of rubbish high outside off stump. Oh, here's finally one I'm going to, and that's the one I top edged. And yeah, see you later, fool. And off he went.
It's a great story, Heels. It's been an absolute pleasure. You set standards as a wicketkeeper which have been unmatched since your retirement. You're a true legend of the game, and it was my absolute pleasure to talk to you today.
Thanks, Crash. I've been very fortunate.
This has been a production of Fox Sports.